to not just meet, but exceed our revenue targets to generate more resources, just as our strong fiscal performance this year has demonstrated. I'm happy to announce that total revenue collection for 2024 is expected to reach 4.42 trillion, surpassing the full-year target of 4.27 trillion. As a percentage of GDP, the emerging revenues will climb to 16.7%, the highest in the last 27 years. And our emerging non-tax revenue for 2024 are expected to reach 606.6 billion, the highest ever recorded. These are all because of the hard work and contribution of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the Bureau of Customs, the Bureau of the Treasury, our privatization team, and our GOCCs. So rest assured, we will work doubly hard to sustain this momentum and adhere to our medium-term fiscal program that reduces our deficit and debt gradually in a realistic manner while creating more jobs, increasing our people's incomes, and decreasing poverty in the process. And on behalf of the economic team, we assure you that from here on, things will just get better because you have a government that works non-stop to deliver the benefits that will keep us progressing as a nation every day. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas. Manigong bagong taon sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Secretary Recto. May we ask Secretary Pangandaman?
Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Happy New Year po sa ating lahat. Alhamdulillah at may budget na po tayo for 2025. First of all, we would like to thank our President, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., for personally being on top of reviewing the bicameral committee's version of the budget. While the Congress's version was quite different from the proposed budget that we submitted, we are grateful and relieved that the President has made sure that we do not end up with a reenacted budget. As you know, the power of the purse is with the Congress because Congress is supposed to be the voice of the people. Hence, the Department of Budget and Management and even the President himself can only submit a proposed budget to Congress, and in the end, because we have a democratic process that we must follow and respect, we can only exercise what the Constitution provides, which is to veto certain items of the budget. After a careful review by the agencies concerned and with the guidance of our Executive Secretary, who is a former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the President ensured that the budget remained true to our constitutional mandates while exercising his veto power to ensure that the budget ultimately continues to be directed to meeting our agenda for prosperity. Nakikinig po ang ating Pangulo sa taong bayan. That is why, among others, unprogrammed appropriations, which increased by over 300% in the BICAM version of the budget, have been greatly reduced by direct veto. There will also be a conditional implementation of Ayuda sa Kapos ang Kita program or AKAP. Let us enter the new year with renewed hope and determination to achieve the goals towards a bagong Pilipinas that we all aspire for. On our end, patuloy lang po kaming magtatrabaho para sa mas magandang kinabukasan ng ating mga mamamayan at sa kaunlaran ng ating bayan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Secretary Pangandaman. Secretary Balisacan.
Good morning, everyone. Let me express our gratitude to both chambers of Congress for their timely and diligent efforts in scrutinizing, formulating, and ensuring the passage of the 2025 General Appropriations Act. Their unwavering commitment to completing this critical task underscores the strength of our collective resolve in advancing the nation's development goals and President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s socioeconomic agenda. The 2025 GAA supports the goals outlined in the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, including attaining our medium-term growth targets as approved by the Development Budget Coordination Committee. The budget prioritizes strategic investments in social services with substantial allocations to education, health, and social welfare programs and infrastructure projects to boost growth and inclusion. These investments are crucial for achieving the PDP's targets related to human capital development and poverty reduction. In line with our commitment to public welfare and fiscal responsibility, the President, as we have heard this morning, has judiciously vetoed certain line items in the budget and set specific conditions for implementing certain programs and projects, including requiring the issuance of guidelines and compliance with pertinent laws, policies, rules, and regulations. This decisive action demonstrates the administration's commitment to our fiscal program by ensuring that planned spending remains within the target deficit ceiling, keeping us on track to meet our medium-term fiscal targets. At the same time, by tightening the conditions for utilizing the budget for various programs, the President ensures that the maximum benefits reach those most deserving of social protection, particularly the near poor. This approach supports inclusive growth by ensuring that economic benefits reach the lower income segments of society, directly contributing to the PDP's goals of reducing poverty and improving the quality of life for our vulnerable populations. As we roll out these projects and programs in the coming year, close collaboration between the executive and legislative branches remains vital. The coming year, 2025, marks a pivotal moment for our country as we enter the midterm of the Marcos administration. This milestone is an opportune time to assess our progress. As we continuously recalibrate our strategies, we assure our fellow Filipinos that we will sustain our gains and accelerate our efforts in areas where we need to catch up to meet our development targets. With today's ceremonial signing of the GAA, we reaffirm our commitment to building a matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay for all Filipinos. Let us move forward with optimism and determination, ensuring that every peso of the national budget translates into impactful programs and services that improve the lives of our people. Thank you and good morning once again.
Thank you, Secretary Balisacan. May we ask Secretary Bonoan for his opening statement?
Good morning, everybody. Well, we just like to express how deeply we are honored for the full trust and confidence that the President, Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and our legislators have extended to the Department of Public Works and Highways through the fiscal year 2025 budget. We are aware that every peso allocated to the Department of Public Works and Highways projects represents the hard-earned contributions of the Filipino people. It is therefore our responsibility to ensure that these funds are used wisely and efficiently, as well as professionally in the most transparent manner, proving ourselves deserving of the trust placed on us. We are committed to making every cent of their contributions worth by delivering quality infrastructure that drives the national progress. With this, we are tasked to implement more infrastructure projects that are crucial for the socioeconomic development of our country. We are prepared to face potential challenges that may arise and remain steadfast in applying the significant lessons that we have learned over the years as we move forward to another year of service. Rest assured that the Department of Public Works and Highways will continue to work diligently in support of the Bagong Pilipinas agenda, advancing infrastructure that uplifts the lives of our fellow Filipinos. Mabuhay ang Bagong Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Secretary Bonoan. We are now opening the floor for questions from our Malacañang media friends. Pia Gutierrez, ABS-CBN.
Good morning po. May we ask ano po yung mga significant line item vetoes na ginawa ng Pangulo?
26 billion, roughly 26 billion under the Department of Public Works and Highways. Direct veto yon. bawat isang project po tinanggal natin. Maybe I can ask Secretary Manny Bonoan to explain ano-anong klaseng mga proyekto ito.
Well, many of the projects that had been vetoed are actually some of the projects that we consider that are not totally supportive to the 8-point socioeconomic agenda of the government, of this administration. And besides, I think many of these projects are projects that need to be scrutinized and ready for implementation. You know, these are some of the projects are not ready for implementation at this point in time. So these are the projects that we have deferred up to.
And then there's 168 billion worth of projects that are in unprogrammed appropriations po. Inisa-isa po natin yan kasi nadagdagan po siya. When we did the NEP po, we see to it that yung UA natin, yung UA po kasi standby appropriation yan, di ba? Parang contingent fund. So generally, I mentioned this many times, generally ang contingent po or yung parang is just at least 5% of the total budget. Yan din po yung tinuro sa atin nung nagkaroon tayo ng consultation with IMF, World Bank. So during the NEP po, it's less than 5%. Napakalit. It's 178 billion pesos. But nung naging po siya, nung napasa na po siya ng BICAM, nag-increase po siya ng 300%. So it's almost 10% of the total budget. So nung nakita po namin yon, binawasan po namin just to be consistent with the 5% yung parang standby fund. So now it's roughly 4.7% of the total budget.
Thank you. Next question, Ivan Mayrina, GMA7.
Can I ask, sa final version, magkano na ho ang budget ng education versus public works? Kasi isa ho ito sa mga pinupunto na posibleng constitutional infirmity ng budget.
Ang nasa, but maybe Executive Secretary can further expound later. Ang nakalagay po is not the department, hindi naman po nakalagay doon na dapat Department of Education. It's the sector. So I have here po the top 10 na pagkakasunod-sunod po kung yung sa pinakamataas na budget. Dito po makikita natin na una ang education pa rin po. Hinahanap ko lang. It's 1.053 trillion. Well, the DPWH po is 1.034 trillion po. Yan po. So, nauna na po ang education.
Secretary, may we get the breakdown do sa education po?
Yes, we will provide po. Bibigay po kami.
So, anong nangyari po, Secretary, we had to, so yung mga veto under DPWH, kaya umangat po relatively yung education sector budget.
Yes po, kasi nabawasan din po ng mga 26 billion yung DPWH budget.
Right. Thank you.
Tristan Nodalo, Newswatch Plus.
Ay, hello, good morning po. Ma'am, you've mentioned yung conditional implementation of AKAP. So ano pong nangyari doon sa pondo ng AKAP na which was questioned before, yung 26 billion both sa House and Senate? So ano po yung conditional implementation? What does it actually mean?
Yung AKAP po, it's still there. It's just that bago po natin ma-release yung pondo, we need to issue guidelines po together with DSWD, DOLE, and NEDA po para maging consistent yung pagbibigay ng AKAP dun po sa gusto nating mangyari dun sa tamang recipients, hindi po magka-doble-doble yung binibigay natin ng mga cash assistance. So, si Sec. RC Balisacan po ang kasama na po ngayon sa pag-define nung paglabas nung pondo ng AKAP.
One follow-up lang po kay Sec. Bonoan. Yung sinabi niyo po yung mga hindi priority ng administration yung natapyas sa DPWH budget. But basically, what kind of projects are this? Ito po ba ay mga kalsada, basketball court, or ano po ba, sir?
Marami kasi yung mga local projects actually that are not ready for implementation, and it will take us some time anyway to make sure na ma-implement namin kaagad. So these are the things na nakita namin that I think we can postpone it for the time being. Yung mga projects na mostly local projects actually.
Roads.
Hindi, not necessarily roads, pati may mga buildings and other local infrastructure. There are some projects that are ambiguous also that we cannot immediately implement anyway. So yun ang mga namin.
Ace Romero, Philippine Star.
May I just ask, because the President vowed to restore the budget cuts in DepEd, so how did we manage to do that?
We cannot, under the Constitution po, kung ano po yung napasa ng Kongreso, yun na po yun. We can only veto line items or projects, but we cannot add po. However, under the budget, may mga certain funds naman tayo dyan na pwede tayong mag-augment ng ating budget. For example, yung unprogrammed appropriations, yan ang magandang use ng UA. As long as meron tayong additional revenue from the DOF, we can actually augment or increase the budget of DepEd, specifically for computerization program.
So, kasi hindi naman pwede mag-realign yung executive. So,
Hindi
pwede
na-
nating gawa ng parang that way.
Hindi na po,
Okay.
opo. Sa execution na lang po tayo, doon na lang po natin hahabulin yung mga kulang sa DepEd.
Kay Executive Secretary, given all these changes and measures implemented by the President, are you now confident that there will be no legal challenges to be triggered against the 2025 budget?
We are, yes, to answer your question, we are confident, but we cannot prevent. If there will be challenges that will be mounted by any quarter, who might still find this present budget as approved, worthy of the challenge. But that is something that we cannot prevent. But I am confident that we worked very hard on this and that our efforts will be validated by any kind of lack of challenge. So we are not going to encourage the challenge.
Salamat po.
Jinky Baticados, IBC 13.
Hi. Good morning, Secretaries. Let me just ask this po. Ano po yung pagkakaiba ng direct veto, conditional implementation, and general observation?
Yes po. Okay. Ang direct veto po, sandali lang, meron tayong notes dito. Ang direct veto po is tatanggalin natin yung mga exact programs and projects na nasa budget. Ang delete, as in mawawala na po siya. Even the amount, wala na rin po yan. So ibig sabihin po, yung 26 billion na natanggal sa DPWH, bababa po yung level ng budget natin ng by 26 billion pesos. Yun po ang ibig sabihin nun. So, yun po ang direct veto. Ang conditional implementation po is hindi po natin kaagad-agad maibibigay sa kanila yung mga pondo dahil kailangan maglabas pa po tayo ng guidelines at implementing rules bago natin mailabas yan ng mga implementing agencies. So, kailangan po nila yung gawin, like yung AKAP po, kailangan umupo po ang DSWD, DOLE, at saka NEDA for the guidelines and whatever safeguards na mabuo po nila, bibigay po sa atin bago po natin ma-release yung pondo ng AKAP. Yun po ang conditional. Ang general observation po is we would just like to ensure na pag in-implement nila yung mga proyekto, consistent yan sa kung ano ang batas, kung ano yung mga mandato ng mga ahensya, ganun po yun. So yun po yung tatlo.
Last, Secretary. Tumaas po ng 373 billion ang unprogrammed appropriations. Paano tinitiyak ng pamahalaan na sumusunod ito sa mga probisyon ng konstitusyon na nagbabawal sa Kongreso na taasan ang mga appropriation na lampas sa orihinal na mungkahi ng Pangulo?
Ang unprogrammed appropriations po kasi, standby fund lang yan. Wala po yan katapat na revenue. Kanina po na-explain po ni Secretary Recto yan. So tuwing meron lang pong additional revenue tayong ma-realize from the Bureau of Treasury, doon lang po natin yan pwede i-release.
Thank you, Secretary.
Next question, Harley Valbuena, DZME.
Hi, good morning. May we know po kung sino yung nag-allocate ng items sa DPWH and unprogrammed funds na binito ng Pangulo? Are they part po nung original version ng National Expenditure Program na sinabit natin sa Congress? Or initiative na po ng Congress mismo?
Initiative na po, nakita na po namin siya sa BICAM report. Unfortunately po, hindi po namin alam kung kanino po yung mga yon. But it's a result of the bicameral conference committee. It's a collective decision of Congress. Of Congress, yan, according to our Supreme Court Justice. NES.
Let me just
Ang seryoso niyo naman kasi, ano ba yan? Happy New Year, guys! We should be happy we have a budget.
I just would like to give context to that question. Ano? Yung proposal of the budget comes or emanates from the executive. That is through the NEP, yung National Expenditure Program. Once that NEP is submitted to the lower house, the lower house will now schedule the hearings on the NEP. When the lower house finally approves or adds or subtracts to the NEP, but must conform to the limitation in the Constitution that it should not increase the lump amount, the entire amount, then it becomes a GAB, General Appropriations Bill, and this is the one that will be transmitted to the Senate for its own study of the proposal, of the budget proposal. And when the Senate shall have been done with its duty, there will now be a bicameral conference committee that will tackle this. Now, I don't know if you can find in the records of the bicameral report or the bicameral report who proposed those increases, but that is to be respected because they are the Congress. They are the Congress. And the final product is, of course, this GAA. And the GAA was submitted to the executive as an enrolled bill, and once it is submitted to the executive as an enrolled bill, the executive can no longer change that. Congress can no longer change that. So that is now what the President reviewed. And the President was personal and direct about the review and called on members of the Cabinet to contribute to the effort of looking at the budget. Now, with or without the calls for review, the President and the Cabinet went to that task. And I think we are happy about the result, and we have come up with this. So the approval of the budget by the Chief Executive happened before December 31. Today, that is. So that is the context.
Thank you, ES. Next question, Eden Santos, Net 25.
Good morning po. Clarification lang po, ibig sabihin yung 10 billion po na budget ng DepEd, na ibalik po iyon para dun sa...
Hindi po, bawal po tayo magdagdag sa bicameral committee report. Kung ano po yung pinasa ng Kongreso, yun po. Hahanapan na lang po natin ng pondo sa pag-i-implement natin sa execution ng budget. Maybe Secretary Recto would like to.
Yes, that's correct. I think the President wants to prioritize the additional spending on education, which is found in the unprogrammed portion of the budget. So if there are excess revenues, we will immediately release that part of the budget. But I'd like to say also that this is the first time in our history that you have both the education sector and the capital outlay sector of the DPWH and the DOTR to hit 1 trillion pesos. So that would augur well for the economy's growth for 2025.
So meaning po, kaya tumaas yung budget ng DepEd dahil nabawasan yung DPWH para lang masabi na mas mataas.
Yung sinasabi po kasi natin na budget ng DepEd, it remained the same.
Opo.
Pero yung tumaas po kasi when we compute education sector po ang pinag-uusapan natin doon. It's not just the budget of the Department of Education. Because you also have to consider, may CHED po, education din po yan. TESDA, education din po yan. Marami pong yung mga SUCs natin, marami pong mga ahensya ng gobyerno na education din naman po yung nila, yung kanilang mandato. Kaya po, tumaas.
So, ang malinaw po, gusto ba sumagot ni sandali, ang malinaw lang po, Secretary Pangandaman, stay po yung budget ng DepEd, kaya lang siya lumitaw na siya pa rin yung mataas kasi nabawasan yung budget ng DPWH. Yun po yung malinaw doon. Next question ko po, doon sa pagbaba po ng ating 2025 national budget at naialis po yung mga naisingit doon po sa BICAM, na wala sa NEP, wala po sa Congress at Senate version, wala naman po bang sumamang mga loob ng mga senador at kongresista na may mga project pong naapektuhan doon po sa pagbaba ng budget? Anyone can answer po.
Dati po siyang
Yes.
You know, it's the president that proposes the budget and the Congress disposes the budget, and it is the executive or the president who executes the budget. Okay? So there is a process in budgeting, as we all mentioned. No? So, palagay ko, maayos naman yung budget for 2025, especially with the vetoed items. Sinigurado ng presidente yung may popondo natin, yung mga karapat-dapat, consistent with the Philippine Development Plan. Walang ambiguous projects, walang mga proyekto na hindi sulit sa taong bayan, so to speak. And I just wanted to add also that even in the DPWH budget, meron dyan mga proyekto na school building. So maaring wala sa DepEd, education sector, nakalagay multipurpose building. Alam ko dahil ako naging congressman ako, naging senador ako. So may mga pondo rin yan sa DPWH that have to do with education as well. No?
And I think we are all in agreement that it's important to have a budget, diba? All of us, that's why we went through that process because lahat po tayo, gusto natin magkaroon tayo ng budget sa darating na taon. Ayaw po natin ng reenacted budget dahil gusto po natin tumaas ang ating ekonomiya. Hindi po tayo pwede bumalik dun sa level natin this year kasi bababa po. We all agree also that while the government expenditure is just 22% of the GDP, it also still contributes to our economy. So maybe actually I can ask RC to talk about ang implication po ng reenacted budget kasi I think importante po ngayon is that meron po tayong budget for 2025.
I think that has been explained by the President this morning sa speech niya, explaining why reenacted budget is not an option for this administration.
Thank you. Next question, Ana Bajo, GMA News Online.
Good morning po, ma'am, sirs. Tanong ko lang po kung natuloy po yung zero subsidy for PhilHealth under the approved budget.
Again, pag wala na po sa enrolled bill, wala po siya. Hindi po natin pwede dagdagan yan.
Yung sa Intel and confidential funds po, was it lower from last year's? Kasi yung DBM, nagsabi po before na 16% lower siya for this year.
Hindi pa po namin nako-compute yung aggregate ng total CIF. We'll check it and we'll provide you at the proper time.
Next question, Marisol Halili, TV5.
Ma'am, follow-up lang po sa PhilHealth. I understand kasi marami yung may concern dun sa zero subsidy ng PhilHealth and I understand hindi naman siya pwedeng i-veto. So is there another way on to change?
Well, my understanding is that Congress did that because the budget for the corporate operating budget of PhilHealth is sufficient. So they have reserve funds of roughly 280 billion. They have a surplus of roughly 150 billion the last time I looked at it. They have investments of more than 400 plus billion. They will earn 200 billion in 2025. They will spend 150 billion. So yung surplus nila, madadagdagan na naman ng 50 billion yan. So they have adequate resources. Now, having said that, we in the Department of Finance next year, tututukan namin ang PhilHealth. We will make sure that we spend that budget better. Halimbawa, I'll give you an example. Maybe we should concentrate on the top 10 illnesses. Palagay ko, yun lang. Itaas natin 100%, 200% benefit package of the top 10 illnesses. Malaking pakinabang ng taong bayan dyan. So, I don't think you have to increase 9,000 case rates. Sa panganganak pa lang, ilan ang case rate? Di ba, alam ko sa panganganak, 2 lang eh. Cesarean at saka hindi cesarean, di ba? Eh bakit sa PhilHealth, 20 ata yan eh. Di ba? So, tututukan namin ang PhilHealth next year.
Thank you, sir. Follow-up lang po dun sa conditional implementation. Aside from ACAP, meron pa po bang ibang program under conditional implementation?
Ay, yes po. 1, 2, hindi sir, marami. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Mag-ano po kami, we will distribute the veto message. We'll post it in our website. Napirma na po, pero wala pa, hindi pa nila nalalabas sa nila, sa office.
Ma'am, pwede bang pa-enumerate lang ng mga highlights, yung mga in general na
Yung conditional?
Yung conditional.
DSWD, ACAP. DSWD OSEC also, yung Payapa at Masaganang Pamayanan Program, PAMANA. Sa DPWH OSEC, yung definition on basic infrastructure program. Meron din po sa Office of the Ombudsman, payment of retirement benefits and pension, release of payment of retirement benefits and pensions. Sa Department of Agriculture po on RCEF. Ay hindi, natanggal na pala to, no? Oo. Tapos, meron din po sa Judiciary, Supreme Court of the Philippines and the lower courts, Special Provision number 7 on maintenance and other operating expenses of the lower courts. Sa Calamity Fund, NDRRMF, National Disaster Risk Reduction, meron din pong special provision dyan na may conditional. DOF, BOC, yung Rewards and Incentive Fund. And then, sa Congress of the Philippines, Special Provision number 6, availability of appropriations and cash allocations. Yan po.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next question, Pia Gutierrez, ABS-CBN.
Ma'am, may I know kung mayroon pong pagbabago sa budget ng Office of the President, given na isa rin po sa na-criticize yung increase ng OP budget dun sa ratified version?
Yes, as far as the budget of the OP is concerned, yung NEP was followed, pero dinagdagan ng 5.2 billion pesos kasi may nangyari nung 2025, no? Yung ASEAN 2026 would have been done in Myanmar. Pero biglang umayaw ang Myanmar kasi walang may gustong pumunta ron na heads of state. Because you know the problem about Myanmar. So, kung alphabetical yung sequence ng pag-hold ng ASEAN, letter P, Philippines, came next. Inako ni Presidente yan. Kasi hindi maaring payagan natin na walang ASEAN. That's a very important part of our international relations. So, ASEAN 2026, to be hosted by the Philippines, we needed to start the work now. So humingi kami, after the submission of the NEP, humingi kami sa Congress ng supplemental funds in addition to what we proposed for the OP sa NEP to the tune of 5.2 billion pesos for 2025. After 2025, we will ask for more, bigger, but that will be in the NEP that will be submitted in 2025 for 2026.
So in short, sir, retained yung increases sa OP budget for 2025? Retained po siya?
It's actually an increase over what we proposed originally sa NEP, but to the tune of 5.2 billion.
Ace Romero, Philippine Star.
Kay Secretary Pakandaman, as a background lang po. So, the projects that were subjected to conditional implementation, if these projects, yes po, if this, sa conditional implementation po, if these projects fail to satisfy the conditions, of course, there will be no release sa
No
funds.
release
What
po.
will happen to the funds? As a background lang po.
No release, wala na po. Hindi po natin,
Saan na po
unreleased appropriation siya.
and what will be the
It
use?
could help reduce the deficit.
For the, okay, ganun na lang po. Sa follow-up lang po, how about po yung expenditures sa defense given that we are also facing territorial defense challenges and internal security? Can you give us background on what happened to defense spending?
I know that, kasi we just received the, I know that nabawasan po yung AFP modernization budget from 50 billion sa NEP to 35 billion po ngayon. However, yearly naman po yan, we try to, inahabol po natin yan. Kumukuha po tayo sa unprogrammed appropriations for that purpose.
Leth Narciso, DZRH.
Ay, sorry. Good morning po. Binanggit rin ni Presidente sa speech niya kanina, prioridad yung agriculture sector, particular yung mga pagtugon sa mataas na presyo at para mapababa ang presyo ng pagkain lalo ng bigas. Ano pong mga programa ito?
Yung rice program po ng DA, medyo malaki po yung pondo natin dyan. May assistance po tayo sa mga farmers natin and then fisher folks. And then meron po tayong post-harvest facilities and also farm-to-market roads. Meron din po tayong irrigation. And then meron din po dyan yung bagong batas po natin, yung RCEF po, yung bagong RTL natin. Rice
Yeah,
tarification.
more or less, you're talking about 250 billion yan for DA. Plus this year's budget na hindi pa naman nagagastos yung lahat. So, essentially, it's a 2-year budget allocation, di ba? So the idea is to increase the productivity of your agriculture sector next year. Kompleto naman yung programa ni Secretary Kiko Laurel. And we know that rice, essentially, you need a lot of irrigation, among others. No? So it's properly funded.
Yeah, ang agriculture po is number 6 pa rin po siya sa top 10.
Annalise Soberano, Bomborajo.
Sec Amina, good morning. Sinabi niyo po na bawasan yung AFP modernization na budget na 35 billion. Ano po ang napasamang project ng big ticket projects ng AFP na napasama po sa 35 billion na pondo?
Wala pa yun, no? Meron po kasi tayong, mabang proseso to. Meron pong approve na, ano ba yun? Horizon, ano na tayo ngayon? Horizon 3 na tayo. So may listahan po yan ng lahat ng mga kailangan natin i-purchase for the defense sector. So depende po kasi yan kung naikontrata na nung Department of National Defense. So ang ginagawa po nila usually, of course, we have to note that ano po yan, more than 1 trillion yata yung napirmahan na agreement. Tama ba ako, Director? More than 1 trillion. So because of lack of fiscal space also, naglalagay lang po tayo ng at least 50 billion, now 35 billion. So nire-prioritize po ng Department of National Defense kung ano yung babayaran nila. Kasi medyo may proseso din po ang procurement ng defense equipment and
Bea Cupin, Rappler.
Good morning po. I realize this is quite advanced of a question, but have there been discussions on how we prevent a situation like this from happening again, perhaps next year, na kumbaga we had to, hold meetings over the holiday break and we had to postpone the signing because the budget that the Congress approved did not align with the budget that the President prepared?
Well, you have to understand, that question is to be explained in this way, We can avoid that by giving to Congress next year, sa next cycle, a NEP that is very comprehensive. But we usually do that. Now, it will be up to the temper of the congressmen who initiate the consideration of the budget. And I hope that they will be conscientized. Because most of those that were taken off probably were, you call them insertions, but that's too simplistic. No, they have their own priorities which they could reflect into the legislative process. And that is what they did. They are within their rights to do that. But here comes now the President who says, where are now my legacy projects, my priority trusts? They have given them to the back burner. So that is what instigated the President to make cuts that did not reflect the concept in the proposed budget through the NEP.
And sir, if I may follow up, how do we intend to check that temper, considering of course Congress is dominated by allies of the President?
We do not check except through veto. Because the enactment process is exclusive prerogative of Congress. Yung veto power of the President is the only way to check. Okay? That's post-enactment. But then we have this constitutional setup that when the President exercises his right of veto, the message could be transmitted to the Congress, to the lower house initially, because that is the originating chamber of Congress, and they could have the override power. They could exercise that if they want to. But usually in a situation like this, I don't recall that an override has ever happened. These two branches of government, the legislative and the executive, they work very well in coordination. And it's only when they are at loggerheads that you can expect a direct conflict. Pero your question is the theoretical, more in the abstract. So that's not easy to answer. Checks and balances.
Alvin Baltasar, Radyo Pilipinas.
Good morning po, secretaries. Just to give us an idea, gaano po ba naging kabusisi si Pangulong Marcos dun sa budget proposal? Kabusisi, gaano niya talaga binantayan, hands-on, binantayan ni Pangulo yung budget proposal after na dumaan sa BICAM?
Maybe I will be the one to answer that.
Yes, sir.
I assume as Executive Secretary 3 months into his administration. And I have been here since then. That was last part of September 2022. Mabusisi si Presidente mula sa umpisa. I can give you that assurance that the President is very focused, very prudent, Ilocano eh. And I am quite happy to make that note, to give that note, because he always says, what do we do with this? This is something that we cannot allow yet because we have lack of funds or etc. So that is what motivates him. Maybe people do not see how he works, but he works very much way into the night and early morning.
Follow up
Babasa.
lang. Ay, sorry po, Secretary.
Kamuntik na
Follow
kami
up lang
ng
po.
Christmas eh.
Secretary, follow up lang po. Doon po ba sa mga ibinito ng Pangulong Marcos, meron siyang personal siyang nakakita, pero meron din ba kayong nakita na mukhang kinakailangang ibito at nirekomenda nyo kay Pangulong Marcos?
Well, as the chief executive, he gives us the direction. He has his own way or means of saying this is excessive, this is not something we proposed, etc. But when he said that let's take out things that did not emanate from the NEP or that exceeded the NEP or that took away from the NEP many items, etc., and redirected them, well, we have to be guided by that kind of direction. So that is when the cabinet became very useful. Yung sabi ni Secretary Bunuan just now, muntik nang hindi nagpasko. Ewan ko what he meant by that. But the cabinet and the president really acted together. You probably have seen the publications about how we went to work. The economic team, especially, because these matters are money matters.
Samantalay ko na lang po kay Secretary Pangandaman. Secretary, pwede po bang paki-mention na lang po yung top 5 na mga government agencies na may pinakamataas na budget allocation for 2025?
Of course, yung education, public works, health, DSWD, DILG, DA, DOTR, Judiciary, Dole, and Justice.
Salamat po.
Before we close today's briefing, may we ask Executive Secretary Bersamin for a closing statement for the Filipino people?
Thank you for your questions. Wala namang softball yata na binato ninyo ngayon. Maraming salamat at nagkaroon tayo ng ganitong pagkakataon upang magkaunawaan sa ganitong bagay na napakamahalaga sa buhay ng ating bansa. Ang budget, the GAA, is always the most important bill that can be enacted by the Congress and that can be approved by the President. Kaya mahalaga sa kanya na hindi re-enacted ang ating budget sa darating na taon. Kasi malaki ang impact sa ating ekonomiya at ayaw niyang magkaroon ng lose momentum. Okay. So, itong mga tanong nyo, sana magkaroon sila ng impact sa taong bayan upang maintindihan nila or maunawaan ang nangyari ngayong araw na ito. Sa panawagan na ang budget natin ay isang budget na unconstitutional, nais ko pong sabihin sa inyong lahat na hindi po magkakaroon ng ganong pagkakataon na unconstitutional ang budget. This is the interplay between the Congress and the executive branch. Yung pagsasabi na unconstitutional ito, mangyayari lamang kung may maghahain ng demanda sa judiciary, the third branch of government. Pero sa karanasan ko bilang dating miyembro ng judiciary, mahirap pong dalhin sa Supreme Court ito kung in good faith pareho yung dalawang branches of government. Pero, as I said in the beginning today, this morning, hindi natin mapipigilan kung mayroong mga quarters who would still like to be heard on this issue. But I hope they should not, because that will again be distracting us. Tungkol sa PhilHealth, sinabi ng ating Pangulo kanina na walang mababawas na benepisyo, kundi madadagdagan pa. At pinaliwanag ni Secretary Ralph Recto ngayon na ang PhilHealth ay maraming resources na maaari niyang gamitin sa pagpapalago na ang benepisyo para sa mga kababayan natin. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Ang inyong executive branch ay maingat at matipid. Ay, hindi naman. ibang connotation ng matipid eh. Mabusisi sa paggamit ng ating resources. So, with that as the final say, I don't know if that is the final say, maganda ang darating na taon para sa atin dahil na-approve na yung ating budget. Happy New Year to all.
Thank you very much, Secretary Recto, Secretary Pangandaman, Secretary Balisacan, and Secretary Bonoan. That wraps our press briefing today. Thank you and good day. Thank you.